Welcome back. A team from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, is set to visit that endangered nuclear power plant in Ukraine this week. Fighting around the plant has sparked fears of a nuclear catastrophe, and people in the region are now being given iodine pills to help prevent radiation-induced cancers in case of a nuclear disaster. What was supposed to be a lightning-fast Russian military victory, of course, has run into a ferocious Ukrainian defense, and it has now turned into a bloody stalemate on the front lines after 6 months of war. So joining me now are former NATO Supreme Allied Commander James Stavridis and former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. Gentlemen are experts on this in this area. Appreciate having you both. Jim, let me start with you and Zaporizhia and the nuclear plant. We've talked about this before. At what point is there no longer hope that Russia and Ukraine work this out, but that the United States or NATO needs to step in and protect this plant?
We're getting closer by the day, Chuck. Unfortunately, what really concerns me here is the fact that we don't have to imagine how bad this can be. It happened in 1986 in Chernobyl. It happened about a decade ago in Fukushima, Japan. We're looking at billions and billions of dollars, potentially thousands of lives, if this core is breached due to, in this case, an act of war. So the good news here, Chuck, is that the IAEA, you mentioned a moment ago, appears close to getting a mission, potentially led, by the way, by the head of the IAEA, an esteemed scientist himself, into the plant. But so far, the Russians are dug in here, and they've got three things they want. They want to use this nuclear plant as a sanctuary to conduct attacks. They want to cut off 20% of Ukraine's electricity. Right. And above all, they want to scare the Europeans. They want a cloud to hang over European thinking on this, pun intended.
Right. Mike, I want to talk about Putin's decision this week to expand the size of his military, but not launch a draft. He continues to walk this line, it seems, for fear of upsetting his own population. But what does that say that he felt the need to find more troops?
I think first and foremost it says, Chuck, that he has not won this war, that the strategic objectives that he outlined 6 months ago, he's failed on all of them. Remember, 6 months ago he said he was going to unite Ukrainians and Russians because Ukrainians are just Russians with accents. He failed at that. He failed at denazification. He failed at demilitarization. He failed to take the capital of Kiev, and now he's just fighting in Donetsk and in Kherson, and now he needs to bring new troops just to fight in that stalemated situation. So on the strategic level, I think he's failed in this war. I don't see him recovering, but he still wants to focus on taking Donbass. That is his new objective, and he needs new soldiers to do that.
Mike, I want to stay with you a minute here and Putin's political situation. The car bombing of a political ally. There's all sorts of speculation, they're from false flag to a either unauthorized, authorized Ukrainian operation. But isn't the simplest explanation that maybe it's Russians unhappy? And if that's the case, how lethal is that to the future of Vladimir Putin?
Well, first, back to your earlier question, that's why you can't do a draft across the board, because that would make Russians unhappy. Second, we don't know who killed Daria Dugina. I want to be clear. There's lots of speculation about it. But immediately after she was attacked, a Russian partisan group, the National Republican Army, I'd never heard of them, Chuck, and I know all of these obscure groups in Russia, came out with a manifesto saying that this was part of a partisan war to overthrow Putin. And then a former parliamentary, an MP, Ilya Ponomaryov is his name, the only Russian to vote against annexation of Crimea back in 2014, sitting in Kiev, published their manifesto. Again, I can't conclude that it's true or not, but the idea that it exists is a new development in this war.
Yeah, domestic problems. If this is being brought to Moscow, that has got to be troubling to Putin. Jim, let me go from the Ukrainian side of things. winter is coming, and I'm not just doing that to promote tonight's next episode of House of Dragon. What does the Ukrainian military need to accomplish before winter sets in?
Well, if they could get a dragon and call Stavridis and flamethrow the Russians, that would be a big help. I don't think that's going to happen. What they need to accomplish is exactly what is happening. Take these excellent weapons we are giving them, not quite dragons, but HIMARS, long-range cruise missiles that can reach out and touch the Black Sea Fleet. Continue these behind enemy lines operations that are starting to look like shots out of Mission Impossible. The Ukrainian offensive, I think, is going to kick off in earnest after Labor Day, Chuck. They're aware that the world wakes up after Labor Day. They want to show they've got the ability to go on the offense. Look for that next.
Are we at, and both, this is a final question to both of you. Mike, it seems as if the Russians are preparing for a years-long conflict. And Jim, it seems as if Ukraine knows they can't do years-long conflict. So, Mike, how do you view this? How do you see this ending? And then, Jim, finally to you. So, Mike, you first.
That's right, Chuck. The Ukrainians don't want it to be a years-long conflict. It costs a lot, $5 billion a year they're getting from the West. They'll eventually run out of resources, military, these HIMARS that Admiral Stavridis was just talking about. That's why they want to go on the offensive in the south. The city of Kherson is what they want to take. They want to push the Russians out for the first time. With respect to the Russians, they think time's on their side, and they think the longer the war goes, it'll play to their advantage. And Putin right now is focusing on trying to take Donbass. What's striking to me, Chuck, is he's been focused on trying to take Donbass for 6 months and still hasn't achieved that objective. That says to me that maybe Putin is wrong about time being on his side.
Jim?
I'll pick up Ambassador McFaul's points. I think he's right on. Above my head is the game of risk. Both sides are playing it. Putin, I think, has got a burn rate in people and equipment that is, frankly, higher than the Ukrainians. Ukrainians are going to count on patience from the West. I'll take that side of the game of risk, the one that the Ukrainians hold.
That is quite the signage that you have behind your head there. That's a cool, old-school looking version of that game that, for some of us, was a staple between that and Stratego. Anyway, Jim Stavridis, Mike McFaul, as always, appreciate both of you being on here and sharing your expertise.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.